This is the Aegis Sabre Peregrine, another variant of the Sabre Raven family of chassis. Now previously we had the Firebird and Raven, and now we have the Peregrine to fill out the flock. Welcome pilots, my name is Hybrid V, and I am absolutely in love with this ship. Now as a quick reminder, CIG did give me a Peregrine to review. No strings attached, they did not tell me to say anything specific about it, they simply gave it to me to try out, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to tell you guys what I think about this ship. Now personally, I'm not a racer, but boy does this ship make racing fun, at least for me. Now, I mostly don't race because I generally don't really care for racing that much. The previous flight model made it really a fun spectacle, but it was also the old flight model, which was, at least to me personally, a little bit more frustrating to pick up and learn when it came to racing. It was really rewarding when you finally learned it, but it had its learning curves and it took some time to get used to. And 323 didn't sell me either. As many of you know who are into racing, 323 didn't do anything good for racing, and that was because we had master modes, which was tuned specifically for combat, and as a result, racing kind of took a back seat. And it just didn't play out very well for that. But now we've gotten a few more tuning passes, and of course we have 324 now, and at least what I've heard from some racers so far is things have gotten a little bit better, and with the Peregrine, things have gotten a lot better now, and I can see why. So the other reason why I didn't like racing in general was because I also just didn't like the racing ships. They were just generally weak, they handled poorly, especially at higher speeds, and mostly I just used them for tactical purposes. So for example, I do own an M50, a Razor, a 350R, and a Mustang Gamma, but I never really used them for racing because they always felt lackluster to me. They felt too slidey with their handling characteristics, and I just felt like I would much rather take a Gladius than a racing ship if I was going to do anything that had to involve high speed. So I mostly used them for tactical reasons, as like a scout craft or as a personal insertion vehicle, like for example something in Jumptown or whatever, right? All of this, however, has changed with the Peregrine, and of course some of the retunings that came in with 3.24. And the simple reason why I like the Peregrine is its control. The Peregrine will do anything you ask it to do. On its own, even without boost, it has a pretty good SCM speed, topping out at around 654 meters per second, and a nav mode top speed that sits just shy of the M50 and Razor's top speed, at about 1,448 meters per second compared with the 1,450 for the M50 and Razor. And the reason for this is its main thrusters. This is where it completely shines. It has a modest 16.9 G thrust of normal output when flying forward, but with boost, it can top out at a whopping 30 Gs, just slightly edging out the M50's acceleration. This powerful rear main, combined with some really good mavs as well, are what makes the Peregrine an absolute joy to fly. Now the M50 and the LX still has it beat in the maneuverability department, of course, but they will still be given a run for their money thanks to the powerful rear mains that the Sabre Peregrine completely outclasses them both on. This means that boost drifting is just completely a breeze to pull off thanks to that raw power in the rear. Just in general, holding down the boost in the Peregrine is like holding down the nitrous happy button in any racing game. The ship rockets forward and the responsiveness just becomes insanely tighter. It is just so much fun to fly. Now, of course, it has a few downsides. For one, it's a heavy ship. It weighs more than the M50 and Razor, of course, and while it's not as chunky as the 350R, it still packs some heft. Luckily, like I mentioned before, those engines and thrusters overcome this weight with ease when it's heavy on the boost, though you will probably notice some of that heft when you're in SCM for the most part. Now, another drawback is its size. If you're used to the smaller racing ships like the M50, Razor, or the Fury LX, then there's going to be quite a learning curve going into flying this ship, as this wingspan can sneak up on you. I cannot tell you how many times I have died in AC trying to practice with this thing, having my wings get caught on structures and debris. In fact, that's pretty much the only thing that would ever ruin my time, was just the wings catching on to something. It's quite eye-opening. Most of my deaths in AC when I'm racing a racing ship like an M50 or a Razor all comes to just me basically losing control of the ship and drifting into a berm or a structure, but with the Peregrine, it's almost always my wings catching something. The other downside is it does not have stealth. Despite it coming from the Raven chassis, it does not have any stealth whatsoever. So even if you want to use it as a tactical reconnaissance vessel or an insertion craft, it doesn't have the stealth of the Raven, so you're going to lose some of that utility as a result. And finally, its boost pool is a little bit more middle of the road. You can hold the boost down for about 20 to 25 seconds before it runs dry, but compared to the M50 with its 30 plus seconds of boost, you will quickly realize that its biggest strength only lasts for so long, requiring very strategic use of its boost. Another downside, of course, is it doesn't come with any weapons. It is a purpose-built racing ship. Much like the Fury LX, we're kind of noticing a trend CIG's pushing racing ships towards, and that is more purpose-built focused racing ships that cannot field any weapons whatsoever. And I actually kind of like this change. I like this idea because it means that we can use these ships in more niche roles. We would expect, right, a racing ship to be very responsive, very fast, and probably very overpowered in a combat scenario, but we don't want to actually push them into a combat scenario. We want to make them a little bit more niche, and taking the guns away is an excellent way of doing that. It also, of course, frees up some weight, despite the fact that the Peregrine is already pretty heavy. Either way, I like this change, and I do hope that they plan on doing this with other racing ships, including existing racing ships going forward in the future. I would love to have an M50 that's fully stripped down and does not have any weapons, but has much better racing characteristics to it. It has better top speed, better acceleration, all that. That would be really fun. I would quite enjoy that. Same with like the 350 and the Gamma. I would love for them to just kind of go back to those and maybe take the weapons away. We'll see. We know, like, for example, the M50 is classified simply as an interceptor, right? So that means it can be used in a combat role. But what if they had the M50 Murray Cup edition that just doesn't have any weapons, but it has a better engine in the back and better thrusters and stuff like that? I think I could be behind that. I think that'd be really cool. That'd be a lot of fun. It would give CIG more leeway for actually tuning the ships to be more focused in racing and having better speeds and acceleration, while also making sure that they're not so overpowered because they have weapons as well too, right? We want to be sure that these ships can perform, but also not be so insanely overpowered that they just completely are the meta that everybody brings to any dogfight, right? But either way, folks, I am absolutely enjoying this ship. Now, of course, you probably are going to be wondering, should you pick one up yourself? Is this a ship you actually would want yourself? If you are into racing already, this is an absolute buy. I would recommend this ship in a heartbeat. It is a really good racing ship. It's very competitive and absolutely fun to fly. If you're looking to getting into racing, it's also an excellent pick because it's just very strong. It's a really good ship. However, there are other ships you can, of course, get into if you so desire. There is the M50 and the Razor and whatnot, but I think the Peregrine is a little bit more easier to get into simply because it has those big engines, and as long as you're learning to kind of do boost drifting and kind of learning to maneuver your engines to kind of help you do tighter turns and stuff like that, it's a very easy ship to fly. Compared to other racing ships, they tend to slide a lot more. You might feel a little bit more frustrated, but that's just my opinion. Again, I'm not a racer per se. I only dabble a little bit, and in my personal experience, I feel like the Peregrine is an easier ship to fly. Just in general, overall, it's way easier. It also has a really good canopy for view compared to something like the Razor with its Titan canopy. So yeah, that is also another positive that I enjoy of it. Now, am I going to buy one now? Like, am I going to actually purchase this ship and put it in my stable? Surprisingly, no. Despite the fact that I actually enjoy this ship, I am not going to actually buy it. And there's a very simple reason for that. We don't know what racing is going to look like in the near future. We know that 4.0 is going to have additional tunings and adjustments that are supposed to happen for all ships, both in combat and racing. We also know we're supposed to eventually also with 4.0, potentially, hopefully we're still getting that. That's expected. It could potentially be delayed. But we're supposed to be getting also control surfaces, which are also going to change the flight profile of ships in atmosphere. Now, right now, this ship behaves admirably in atmosphere, but we don't know how it's actually going to behave in atmosphere with control surfaces in. Now, my money is it's going to be really good, but again, we don't know. All of this is just completely fogged. We can't see any of that in the future, and my crystal ball currently is in the shop right now. I can't tell you either. But what I can say is that without knowing 100% what things are going to look like in the future, I would say hold off now personally. So that's what I'm going to at least do. But again, if you are into racing and you want to do racing now, you want to get good at it, and it is something that you really are into, this is a ship you definitely should pick up 100%. It is a very fun ship to fly. And again, like I said, I hope CIG is going to kind of tune around that aspect. I really hope that they give the ships a lot more control, more maneuverability, and just more responsiveness. This is the reason why I like the Peregrine. Like I said, the other racing ships, I don't feel as responsive when I'm flying it. They just feel like they're so slidey and stuff, which can be cool. Some people like that, especially for stunt flying. But when I'm trying to race personally, I like having control. I want my ship to do what I tell it to do. I can't tell you how many times I've been doing Arena Commander practicing with the other racing ships, and I'm just tearing my hair out. It's just so frustrating. But with the Peregrine, I don't have that issue. because it just does everything I want it to do so long as I'm on the boost. That's it. All right, folks, that's it for me today talking about the Sabre Peregrine, a very, very, very competitive Aegis Dynamic racing ship, which is funny because we haven't had an Aegis racing ship yet, despite the fact that we have all these advertisements on Winner's Circle, and we've had them for years with Aegis logos and stuff like that, and it's like we don't have any Aegis racing ships, so why are they advertising there? Well, whatever, it is what it is. Same with Anvil, so hopefully we'll get an Anvil racing ship soon. That would be really cool, so we can actually enjoy an Anvil racing ship instead of awkwardly looking at the advertisement for an Anvil ship at Winner's Circle, despite there being no racing ships for Anvil yet. But I digress, folks. I'm going to go ahead and cap off today's video by showing you the paints that also came with the Peregrine as well, and also awesomely, just like with the Firebird, these paints are also transferable both to the base Sabre as well as the Firebird and the Raven if you own one. So good on CIG for doing that. So if you do decide to pick up these paints to support the development of Star Citizen, these paints are, like I said, transferable to any other variant of the Sabre, which is really, really good, really awesome. So I'll go ahead and cap things off. I'll show you guys those paints now. And folks, if you did indeed enjoy this video, please leave a like, as it really does help out the channel. And of course, if you want to watch more videos like this and much more down the line, be sure to subscribe as well. And of course, if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member like these fine folks right here, whose contributions are immensely helpful for me getting these videos out to you all. But until next time, fly safe, and I'll see you all in the black.